Greetings friends! Today I want to showcase the complete endgame guide for my Omniscience Physical to Cold Tornado Shot Deadeye in the new Mirage League. In this video I will cover everything you need to know like gems, gear slots, passives and jewels. This build uses many expensive items, so if you're looking for a cheaper build, I recommend starting out with Elemental Rain of Arrows until you farmed enough currency. I've traded my wrist for divines using the essence strategy until I managed to get around 20 divine orbs, then started transitioning. I will talk about alternative cheap options when showcasing the expensive items, but just know that the current character costs around 150 divines without the bow I've crafted myself and the unique flasks. This is a level 99 Deadeye build that is using an attack called Tornado Shot. Every attack fires an arrow that splinters into multiple ones, covering a lot of ground, resulting in amazing clear speed in maps. The build strength is the ability to kill a tremendous amount of monsters really fast with insane damage, especially after you get headhunter buffs. It does however not do well with uber bosses because our overall defenses are quite low and we rely on our headhunter buffs to become tanky, but that doesn't mean you cannot do these things. With good play, you are able to do any nightmare maps and most bosses even without buffs from our belt. But this is definitely not a boss carry build and I'm not trying to advertise it as such. We are stacking attributes for Omniscience, mainly dexterity and strength, allowing us to not care about any resistance roll and attribute requirements on our gear and skills, along with a huge amount of elemental penetration. I will definitely be doing 40 out of 40 challenges with this character. For our defenses, we have a base of 3100 maximum life with a simulated effective health pool of 16,000, 100% spell suppression, 5000 evasion and around 2.5k armor, with 75 fire and lightning resist, 76% cold resist and positive chaos resist. This number goes higher however when we start mapping because of our flasks that provide additional maximum resist and chaos resist. We are also immune to corrupt blood through an abyss jewel implicit. For our offense, we have 2.9 million Tornado Shot DPS on PoE Ninja, but this number is horribly calculated. So much so that I had to go in POB to make the configuration and show you that in reality we have 60 million DPS. POB doesn't even calculate the new impute gems, for example, like Hypothermia giving us 20% more damage against shield enemies, and this is without any headhunter buffs too. Once we get all the modifiers and buffs from rare monsters, we will have hundreds of million DPS per arrow. This, of course, is cold damage, which is the best type because of the chill we inflict on enemies and shattering of corpses with our critical hits. We have 3 power charges and 4 frenzy charges with 75 critical hit chance and 299 critical multiplier, 98 chance to hit foes, 8 additional arrows and 10 additional arrows with dying summoning flask, 2350 Omniscience giving us 167 elemental resist penetration, and a lot of resist allows us to skip all of those suffixes on the gear. I can't stress enough how much better it feels once you get the headhunter buffs going. It's something every Path of Exile archer enjoyer should experience, like guaranteed crit, guaranteed hits and billions of damage. Now let's check out what skill gems we are currently using. First of all, I have to mention that starting with this Mirage League, we have the possibility to choose if we want an extra level corruption from our gem or imbue it with level 1 gem by using the Coin of Power, Knowledge or Skill. This opens up a lot of new possibilities for builds that otherwise we wouldn't have. Our main skill, Tornado Shot, is imbued for example with a Coin of Skill and is giving us supported by level 1 Hypothermia. This gives us 20% more damage with hits against chilled enemies. Since we only do cold damage, all the enemies will be always chilled. Then we link it with elemental damage with attacks, inspiration, vicious projectiles, greater fork and increased critical damage. Our main utility is something pretty nifty. We use a Summon Flame Golem imbued with Life Tap. This allows the golem and any skill inside the 6-link setup to be cast with life instead of mana. The links are Blood Rage, Enhance, Empower, Summon Flame Golem, Mark on Hit and Sniper's Mark. Since we leech a lot of life and some of our leech is instant, having a life tap on either Blood Rage, Flame Golem or Sniper's Mark is mandatory to not have any issues with mana in my opinion. Without it we can't even cast Flame Golem because it needs around 140 mana at level 20. If you wish to not get this, however, you could just get a lower level Flame Golem. Our secondary utility is Frenzy, linked with Power Charge on critical, and Mana Forge Arrows. This setup gives us both Frenzy and Power Charges, especially on bosses. Ideally, we would like to have a Calling Strike support built in from the imbued gem, but I wasn't lucky to get it, and it costs around 10 divines, so I just skipped it. Last but not least, we have our Aura setup. In our helmet, we socket in Haste, Herald of Purity, and Hatred, linked with level 4 Enlighten. We also use a Precision 21 in the boots, along with an Automation Steel Skin setup and the standalone dash for mobility. If you want, you can use Enlighten level 3 in the helmet, but then you will have to lower the level of the Precision quite a lot in order to comfortably use Tornado Shot. Although not necessary, I highly recommend getting all available gems with quality and corrupt them for an extra level whenever they are not imbued. Now for the most interesting part, in my opinion, the gear. Of course, the integral part of the build is the unique amulet called Crystallized Omniscience. This is a 5 chaos amulet, but with the right corruption it will cost us around 10 divine orbs. We anoint it with Atmos Might and we use Attribute Catalyst to boost the implicits to 7%. Our second unique is the Black Sun Crest, another 5 chaos unique that will cost us 10 divine orbs with the right implicits. We need 90% reservation multiplier to wear all of our auras. For the longest time, I've played without this implicit and without Enlighten level 4, but used Herald of Ash instead of Haste. Feel free to do so if you have budget constraints. Our last unique is the one and only Headhunter, a 50 divine belt that allows us to steal modifiers from the rare monsters we kill for 60 seconds. If you have budget restraints, I recommend using a Stygian Vice along with an Inspired Learning unique jewel and socket it in the same slot where our little pride is. I will talk more about this when we get to the jewels in the passive tree. For our rare gear, I'll start with the most expensive and hard thing to craft, our bow. If you are interested, there is a video on my channel showcasing how I've crafted this, but in short we need a Fracture Spine bow with 2 additional arrows, then we spam Deafening Essence of Contempt on it until we have at least a tier 3 increased physical damage roll. We use Horticulture Bench to force another physical damage roll, hopefully a tier 3 hybrid or so, then we finish it up with Prefixes Cannot Be Changed, Veiled Exalted Orb or Veiled Chaos Orb. If you use Chaos Orb, however, there is a chance the item will fill up with garbage, so beware, finishing it up with a crafted crit plus attributes. There is a case to be made for attack speed craft, but considering we are using enhanced empowered Blood Rage, this doesn't make sense for me. One more thing to mention is the Tempering Orb gamble if you want to further boost the physical damage, but I recommend doing this before you 6-link the item because it can remove them and you have to 6-link again after getting it. I didn't get the best outcome, but decided to settle for the second best 6% increase explicit physical modifier magnitude. Our quiver has fractured additional arrow on a heavy arrow quiver base, spammed with Deafening Zeal essences for attack speed, and we hope for tier 1 life, critical multiplier and physical flat damage. This quiver is far from perfect and ideally you would like a synthesized triple implicit to take its place. Then for our armor is a double elevated attacks, have critical strike chance and % dexterity. We use an Awakener Orbs to combine 2 armors into one and hope for a good suffix. Then we finish it up with Suffixes Cannot Be Changed, Veil Chaos Orb. Ideally unveil Avoid Elements, but I wasn't lucky to get it and settled for % life. Crafted some armor renovation and called it an item. Our rings are 2 helical rings that are used to boost our attributes as much as possible, with the highest tier of life that we can get. I recommending purchasing one base, non-split, and splitting the item yourself. That's what I did. Instead of paying 16 divines for 2 bases, I paid only 10 divines for both, splitting the item. We spam Essence of Sorrow to guarantee the dexterity here and hope for the best. Our boots need to have strength and dexterity along with spell suppression. Then we used Eldritch Chaos Orb to reroll prefixes over and over until we get tier 1 life and movement speed. We finish it up with 100% chance to avoid being frozen on the benchcraft. Its implicit could be avoid elements, which we also get it on our body armor, along with any other useful things. Last but not least, our gloves. This slot can become quite pricey, especially if you want the abyssal socket for the jewel. This is how we become immune to corrupting blood, so I highly recommend it. To craft this, we want a fractured increased damage with hit against shield enemies, Valor Glove base, then we use triple Fossil Resonator. with Hollow, Sanctified and Shuddering Fossil to guarantee one Abyss socket and increase our chances for attack speed roll. If we are lucky, we get all the suffixes that we want, including the attack speed, then we go Suffixes Cannot Be Changed, Veil, Chaos Orb, until we hit a life tier along with the Veil 30% of physical damage converted to cold damage. This is a huge gamble, so I bought these gloves for 65 divines after failing to craft them myself 3 times. And then the implicits were horrifying to get. I failed 6 50/50s in a row for the Orb of Conflict, physical damage converted to cold damage, costing me upwards of 30 divine orbs. I suggest just purchasing this straight out if you don't feel lucky, because this is the hardest and most annoying slot to get, even lowering the modifiers on the tiers to get a cheaper item. For the flasks, here is where it gets quite pricey. I'm using 4 unique flasks, some of which are very expensive. First of all, a Progenesis unique amethyst flask. This is the best defensive flask in the game, but if you have budget restraints, I recommend just using an Aziri's Promise amethyst flask, or just use a plain old instant life flask. Instill it with used when charges reach full. Then a Dying Sun unique ruby flask for 2 additional projectile. This one also we instill with charges when reach full. If you don't have enough money for this, just switch it for a Battle Fate or a Diamond flask. A Quicksilver flask with increased movement speed and additional charges. Instill this one with reused at the end of its effect. Always have it running. A Taste of Fate unique Sapphire flask. This one is quite cheap, so definitely get this one. Instill it with charges when reach full. And my favorite flask of all time, Wine of the Prophet. On first glance, this flask might not seem that impressive, but depending on your RNG, it can become absurdly powerful, like giving us 4 additional projectiles, or 100% chance to deal double damage, or enemies you kill explode on death, among other things. Instill it with used when charges reach full, and in case your budget doesn't cover it, you can just get a silver flask instead of this one. Now let's take a look at the passive tree. We add a Deadeye, so we take full advantage of all of our Ascendancy passives, so much so that we even socket in Forbidden Flame and Forbidden Flesh unique jewel for the extra far shot node. We have Tailwind from Gathering Winds, 75 increased effect of marks from Focal Point, get 2 additional projectiles from Endless Ammunition, and we chain with Ricochet. We take the Point Blank Keystone. We stack critical nodes and some spell suppression on the tree, but mainly focus all of our points on the bottom right part of the tree. We are stacking attributes, so we path to cluster jewel sockets and use item level 84 12 passive bow jewels that are rolled with 35 increased effect, attributes and life. For the unique jewels, as mentioned, I am using Forbidden Flame and Forbidden Flesh for far shot for extra ascendancy. A Thread of Hope to easily access all of these juicy notables in a massive ring radius, as you can see. A Watcher's Eye with double hated modifier, one with crit and one with physical damage converted to cold damage while affected by hatred, and this is quite mandatory to transform all of our physical into cold in combination with our gloves. You could, however, get Winter Spirit Notable and Mastery for 40% physical to cold conversion and get worse roll gloves, skipping the annoying implicit. This is what I've done for the budget version, and it works wonderfully until you want to min-max. If you are unbelievably rich, you can unspec Entrange and get the jewel socket up here to socket a Foul-born Unnatural Instinct that gives us all unallocated notables in radius for amazing utility, damage, life and spell suppression cap. But this jewel alone is a Mirror of Kalandra, so I decided to not even chase it. Last but not least, we use a rare jewel with 3% reservation efficiency and 7% life with any useful modifiers, and a Little Pride jewel with as much percent strength and chance to deal double damage that we can get. I paid 1 divine for this exact one, and there are multiple on the market. If you are confused on how to get a good jewel easily, it is done with the Timeless Jewel Calculator website. I encourage you to come into livestream and ask me live. I've explained this numerous times to the community and I am not shy to do it again. If you don't have Headhunter, as previously mentioned, I recommend socketing in an Inspired Learning here until you purchase one, and then switch it with the Little Pride. Also, if you want to min-max the amount of projectiles that we have, use Tattoo of Thessalius Scout to replace all of our dexterity on 3 with 4% increased effect of our marks. For the permanent buffs from campaign, I killed all bandits for a passive point and I am using Soul of Arakali and Shakari for the pantheons. This concludes the build guide for my Omniscience Physical Tornado Shot. If you have questions or suggestions, please post them down below in the comment section or come ask them in chat when I stream. I'd love to have you there. Thank you very much for watching and I hope to see you soon. Exile